I'm going to walk around. This is the way I like to do this, not static sitting behind you because technology couldn't Bluetooth from the podium back to there. This is a program. It's either called MultiCool, depending on where you download it onto your phone or onto your computer, or there's one called PaveCool. Okay, it's free. One of them's through the Minnesota Department of Transportation, and the other one, I think the National Asphalt Pavement Association and some others in conjunction went together. How many people in this room have ever had a problem trying to figure out how much time you had to roll the asphalt under varying conditions? Okay, most of the rest of you are liars or you're really shy. Because unless you are a genius or have a photographic memory and can remember every situation you ever lived, all of us have struggled at times to figure out how doggone much time am I going to have to get this asphalt rolled and get all the passes on it that I need and get good compaction. Well, this tool is very helpful. What I will tell you from my experience using it for about 10 years and trying to get our own company, NB Pavings folks, to use it over and over, it's as helpful when it's too hot out and you're laying thicker lifts as it is when you're laying thinner lifts like surface and all of a sudden it's 20 or 30 or 40 degrees cooler than the last time you laid that mix. Okay? It's helpful both ways. And we're going to look at some scenarios, and I think it's going to surprise you. Hopefully you can see, as I said, PaveCool, MultiCool, they're both free programs. They're 99% the same. We are literally going to start at the top, walk down the left side and answer some very simple questions, and then we're going to walk down the right side and answer some very simple questions, and what you're going to see is you're going to see a cooling curve and an amount of time that you have in order to get that mix laid. So we're just going to take an example. Very first thing, I just titled it APAI. You don't have to put a title in here. Bottom line, you're going to start with your date. 6/1/22, imaginary, we're going to pave June the 1st, 2022. What time's the mix going to be there? 7:30 a.m. So that's when we're going to start. Move on down. What temperature is it? Oh, let's plug in 60 degrees there, Kirsten. It's a decent June day. We've got a 5-mile-an-hour wind. You can, again, next box down, put in whatever the conditions are going to be. If it's going to be gusting, I usually just throw in the average. Okay? You can find that information on your phone. Drop-down box for what's the atmospheric conditions going to be. Clear and dry, humid, hazy, partly cloudy. Let's say it's clear and dry. Okay, now, what material type are you going to be laying on down here in this box? What material type? Again, you're going to be laying on asphalt. We're going to do an overlay, okay? Surface temperature. How cool is the ground? How cool is the road? Well, it got kind of chilly last night. We're paving at 7:30 in the morning. It's 50 degrees. Now let's go up to the top. On the right-hand column, what are you laying? Here's the different mix types. You got fine or dense graded mix. You got coarse graded SMA. Basically only two types. We're just laying normal surface, fine, dense graded mix. Boom, filled that in. What's the liquid? 6422. And I will tell you, you don't need to get too hung up on that unless you're laying 7622 and it's pretty cold out. Then you're going to see a lot of difference. But if you're not sure what liquid, just plug in 6422. There's really only about 3 that we use here in Indiana anyway. This is an overlay, so put it in at 1.5 inches. And when it hits the ground at the paver, what's it going to be? Let's put in there 285. Okay, so we basically answered every question on there, and it probably took me about 5 minutes talking you through that. If I wasn't yakking and you were just doing it, you could probably do it in a minute and a half. Now hit calculate, boom. So what does that tell you? It tells you with this particular mix, and it pretty much defaults to around 170, 175 degrees when you need to be done with your compaction passes. But basically what I like down here, this is what magic you're looking for. June 1st, 2022 on a 60-degree morning where the ground's 50 degrees and you're laying it at 290. It's right behind the paver, says start rolling in about 2 minutes. You better be done in 14 minutes. How many people would have thought, laying 1.5 inches of surface on a 60-degree day, that you only had 14 minutes to get your passes on? Folks, asphalt is not intelligent, okay? Asphalt is rocks. It's liquid asphalt. It's all coated, and it knows two things. I'm really hot, and the air and the ground are a whole lot colder than I am. On a 100-degree day, on a 100-degree day, and the road temperature being 100, the air and the ground is still close to 200 degrees colder than the asphalt you're laying on the ground. So where do you think that heat's going to go? Both places. Both places. So let's do something. Let's don't change anything, Kirsten, but one thing. Go over there to the wind speed and kick that up to about 15 miles an hour. Now, remember, we had 2 minutes to start. We had 14 minutes to be done. You just lost 2 minutes because you got 15-mile-an-hour wind instead of 5-mile-an-hour wind. One of the things that I learned years ago, and the first place I heard it was Jerry Huber from Heritage when he was giving a presentation. And it kind of didn't sound right to me at first, but field experience over the years has proven that it is right. It's a scientific fact. What happens when you have heat over your asphalt? The heat's going up and it's going into the ground. It forms like a heat blanket, okay? It's just like the mirage or those wavy lines you see on the road or the hood of your truck or whatever. That's a heat blanket, okay? 2 miles an hour, it's moving a little bit of it out of there. 5 miles an hour, it's moving it out of there a little bit faster. You get up to about 12, 14, 15 miles an hour, pretty much anything after that, it doesn't increase the speed at which that heat blanket is removed by the wind. So that's why you lose a little bit of time. But if you kick that up to 20 or 25 miles an hour, it's not going to make a huge difference. You're still going to lose a little bit of time, but you're not going to lose a lot more. Okay, that's what's going on. Now, it does make a pretty big difference if it's cold out and you've got no wind or 2 or 3 miles an hour or 15. But 4 or 5 miles an hour difference on a warm day, it's not gonna be a game stopper, but it is one of the factors. I want you to get engaged with me. There's a lot of experience in this room, okay? Who would say, or it's not who, what would you say is the number one factor on what determines how long you have to get your mix cooled out, how long it's going to take for it to cool out and be done? Is it environmental? Is it the material? Is it what's in the material? Is it how thick you lay the material? Is it daytime? Is it nighttime? What? Just somebody throw an answer out. Temperature of the mix. Good answer. Temperature of the mix. Anybody agree with temperature of the mix? What's another factor that might be involved? Excuse me? The thickness, okay? What else? Surface temperature or the temperature outside? Okay, Kirsten, here's what we're going to do. We're going to play a little extremes here. Let's don't change anything except for the temperature outside is now 100 degrees. Okay? Remember, we had 12 minutes. It's 100 degrees, and what you're laying on is 85. Down, there you go. Okay, so basically we said it's a lot hotter day, and what you're laying on is a lot hotter. Go ahead and click calculate. 19 minutes. So you darn near doubled the temperature outside, but you only gained about half more time. Okay, you had 14, now you got 19. Okay, let's take it back to the 60 degree, and you're laying on 55 or 50 degree. There you go. And let's take that mixed thickness up to 2 inches. Lift thickness up to 2 inches. So we went from 14 to 20 by increasing 1/2 inch, or by increasing the depth of the mix by a third. Okay? Let's take that up to 3 inches. Now how much time we have? 36, 38? My eyes are fuzzy. 38. So the difference between 1.5 inches and 3 inches goes from 14 minutes to 38 minutes time to compact. Are you seeing a pattern here? It's not that nothing else is important, because it is, but if you were laying 2 inches of intermediate yesterday, but now you're going to lay 4 inches of base today, and at similar conditions, your rollers are going to be way back there. You might have to throw an extra one on. Why? Because you've got to get your breakdown, you've got to get your intermediate passes, but somebody needs to get that last 0.5 to 1%, and somebody needs to make sure that it's smooth. Agreed? Okay, now, let's go ahead and leave that where it's at as far as depth. Let's take, oh, I'm sorry, I missed one box, folks. I jumped over one box. Kirsten, down there where it says latitude, right under the clear sky, clear and dry, put it on 42. No, 40, 42, it doesn't matter. Okay, you don't have to be a geographical genius. All you have to know, if I'm in central Indiana, 40 works. If you're in northern Indiana, it's 41, just not quite 42. If you're clear down at Evansville, it's 38 or 39. But honestly, what that's doing, that's looking at the whole globe. And that's looking at the time of year it is, it's looking at the angle of the sun, it's factoring all that in with some math that is way out there that I'll never understand. I'm glad there's smart people that know how to do that. So if you just plug in 40 to 42, you're cool here in Indiana. That's what that's all about. I missed that earlier. Okay, so here we are. We've got 38 minutes. See, she changed it from 45 to 40, and we have absolutely no difference in the time to compact because we haven't moved far enough on the earth. Okay, so bottom line, we're going to leave 3 inches in there. Now, let's take the temperature up. Instead of 60, it's 100 degrees outside. And it's 85, what you're laying on. We went from 38 minutes to 57 minutes. If you're paving 20 feet a minute, 20 feet a minute, which isn't super fast, it isn't super slow. If you're paving 20 feet a minute, let's round that up to 60 because it's easy math. How far is that paver going to be behind that last roller or be ahead of that last roller? If it takes an hour and you're moving 20 feet a minute. Okay. 60 times 10 is 600. 60 times 20 is 1,200. 1,200 feet. 1,200 feet. So it's a ways back there. It's a ways back there. Let's kick that up to 4 inches. Calculate. Yep. You just went from just a shade under an hour. You added 1 inch of depth. You went from 3 to 4, and now it's 90 minutes. Okay? You cannot do a whole heck of a lot to mitigate that. You can gain a few minutes by, instead of bringing the mix temperature out at 285, bring it out at 265. Change that to 265, please, Kirsten. .74 instead of 90. So you can mitigate it some, okay, by dropping that mix temperature. But what I tell our folks at the plants and our folks in the field, look, you are going to be 280 plus or minus 20, 25. That's your range that I want you to, work in to try and move this needle around. But don't let some cowboy think that he can get it rolled in 40 minutes or 35 minutes if he brings it out at 240, because that's not a good idea, okay? You've got to have enough heat in that mix to get your passes on and make good mix and get everything mixed together well and coated well. Do we have any questions? Do we have any questions? Okay. Let's flip to a scenario that we encountered last November, just prior to Thanksgiving. Kirsten, would you change that to November the, say, 20th? 8 o'clock loadout. And it says 2020, but that does not matter. We're laying SMA. We're going to lay SMA. I'm jumping around on you. And it's a 7622 liquid. And the temperature outside is 23 degrees. The wind speed is 10. The temperature we're laying on, I'll just call it 30. And we are laying 1.5 inches. The delivery temperature, 285. Let's see how long we got. 11 minutes. That was I-70 last November. When you've got to get your passes on. Now, that was first thing in the morning. Yes, we all agreed, oh, we've got to have this open. We've got to have people, have all these lanes before Thanksgiving because they got to get to Grandma's house unimpeded. And we all have experienced how, everyone looks the other way at what the book says when we really want something done, whether it's the department, the contractor, us holding hands, saying, yeah, we're going to do this together. That was the first hour or so of the day. By afternoon, oh gosh, we were really blessed. We were up to about 36, so change that to 36. And now leave the surface temperature, put it about 33. We still got 11 minutes. Okay? There are certain times when you're up against it so much that needle really has to move to give you more time. Either on one extreme end, it's cold out and you're laying 1.5 inches, or on the other extreme end, it's hot and you're laying a thicker lift. But bottom line, we had to get our passes on in 11 minutes. Two things that causes. It causes you to really have your people work very well, paving right beside each other. We had 2 sets of rollers, and we had another set of rollers, so we were getting our breakdown, and then we were getting our intermediate passes, and we had one guy kind of cleaning up at the end. But we were done with the temperature at 125 to 150 feet behind the paver, so you can imagine how short these poles are. So, getting away from temperature for a second and thinking about smoothness, is that an ideal situation to be in when you're trying to get smooth pavement? The more times you stop, the more chances you have to induce roughness, induce a bump, stop a little quick, not quite get turned. All of these things have factors that are either going to help you or hurt you with something else, but it has to factor into your overall decision. We've used this tool to explain to customers, if we try and pave your lot, this is what's going to happen and you're not going to like the job, okay? Including the Department of Transportation. We know we'd really like to get this done, but guys, I'm hearing the theme song in my head for Mission Impossible here. Even if I get density by some miracle, we're not going to like the smoothness, okay? But there are times when you got to do what you got to do. This tool, MultiCool or PaveCool, will help you make some really good informed decisions. You use it on your phone just exactly like I just did here. You literally just answer the questions. And I will tell you probably the only thing prior to today, the only thing that you would not have known how to answer is what latitude you're at. And again, you can Google that. But if you just remember 40, you're probably good. Any questions about any of this? It's a wonderful tool. I strongly encourage you to use it, to get your folks and your company to use it. And that's all I have.